What's up? What's up? We are back for another episode of Book Talk, author interview. My name is Aurelia Wynn, and tonight I have another guest. Hello, come on in. Let me invite my guest to join us. There she is. Um, Oh, let me see. I just sent you a request and let me see. Hello.
Hi.
One second. I am trying to fix this. Let me see. Okay. We had someone in here saying some crazy stuff. I had to get him out of here.
Oh,
Did you see that?
I
Did you see the comment?
didn't.
No?
I
Okay.
didn't.
Okay.
I didn't.
Okay. Well, no worries then. I'm not going to repeat what they said. Anyways, how are you?
I'm good. Good. How are you doing?
I am doing great. I am doing so good. Yeah. And so, okay, let's go ahead and jump into this. If you don't mind introducing yourself and we'll just fire away.
Well, my name's Robin Johnson, and you and we've been talking back and forth on Facebook. I'm
Mhm.
an author and self-publisher. My son and I we co-own our own publishing company, One Body Publishing Company.
Nice. How did you guys get into that?
Honestly, this company was started years ago, to be honest.
Mm.
I grew up living with my grandmother, and one of the among the many lessons that she taught me, my favorite lesson that she taught me was, excuse me, I'm having trouble with allergies.
Mm.
My favorite lessons that she taught me was to be yourself. Don't, Robin,
Mm.
I can always hear her. Robin, just you don't have to do something just because your friends tell you to do it.
Yeah.
I call her my little country grandma because she just flat out told you what was true. So
Mm.
anyway, she taught me this lesson. I grew up hearing it. It was one of my favorite lessons. Excuse me, one of my favorite lessons. And when I started writing, I found myself gravitating toward the topic of being yourself and making your own choices. So, I
Mm.
had a favorite aunt who I did everything for her as, she was getting ill and
Mm.
couldn't take care of herself.
Mm-hmm.
And she left me some money. One of the things she left me in a will to me was literally, honestly, $500. Instead of taking that
Mm.
money and buying clothes or doing something
Mm-hmm.
else with it, I took it and got my first book of poetry published. So it just basically
Wow.
started because of grandma's lesson of do what you want to do. Don't do what people want.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Wow. That's a beautiful story. I
Mm,
love
thank you.
that.
Yeah, that's grandma's lesson. I just,
Yeah.
I live by it myself. I have a son. As I
Mm.
mentioned earlier, he's 21. So, I
Mm.
taught him the same lesson. Do what you
Mm-hmm.
want to do. You don't have to do what your friends want you to do. You don't have to fit in. So
Mm-hmm.
it's kind of like, I guess you'd say, a tradition. Like my grandma taught it to me. I believed in it. I see that it works. I'm 56 and try to make my own choices still
Mm-hmm.
every day. I taught it to him. And, one of my first books of poetry is called Touched, Touched.
Okay.
And the poetry that I wrote in Touched, again, was based on lessons that she taught me. And I
Mm.
was going to schools and being invited to speak at schools something like
Mm-hmm.
10 years before I had my own son. So, one
Wow.
thing that I pride myself on is it's not one of these things where, oh, I jumped on this hot topic. Oh, I jumped on this popular topic. I was
Mm-hmm.
taught it. I was interested in it before I even had a son.
Mm. Yeah, yeah, wow. And so, for those that don't know, one of the things that I had posted and how we even started talking or connecting rather, because I think we had been following each other for a little bit on Facebook, and
Exactly.
I had shared a post just kind of just saying what everybody already knows about popularity with being an author and just having a publishing company, and really just feeling like, I don't know why I posted that. I just felt like a light bulb had come on for me. Like, wait a minute, no one is buying anything, or not as many people were purchasing books from the authors that I was working with. Not that many people were purchasing my books. And I was like, wow, what's going on? And it was just the fact that these people just didn't know us. And it was like, oh, okay. For me, that was a light bulb moment. And you had commented on that. And so I kind of want to talk a little bit about that, if you don't mind just kind of sharing your point of view on, you know, popularity in the book publishing field, because you own a book publishing company as well. And so we can relate on that.
We definitely can relate. And, you know, I like you said, we've been following each other. We've commented back and forth, you know, and I think it's really cool that when you are in an industry with someone else who's a self-publisher, because that's a way to get your message out. And talking about popularity, you know, another reason why I started my publishing company is because when you go to the larger publishing companies, like, nothing against any of the larger publishing companies, but, you know, they have their rules. Or, we're not looking for this type of content right now. We're not focusing on this topic right now. And you feel you have this message that will help other people. And if you keep getting these closed doors, or we're not looking for this topic right now, then, you know, publish it yourself. And, you know, you know, being yourself, having self-respect, having self-esteem are the other two topics that we create content based around. And that's not a popular topic, but it should be, because there's a need for it. And, you know, when you are just interested in things that are popular, interested in things that are trending now, it's like you're just jumping on the next big thing. And if that's what someone else's thing is, then fine. But for us, we live, believe, and stand by what we write. So I've never been one, oh, I'm going to jump on this trend. Oh, I'm going to jump on that trend. So, you know, when you wrote that post, I'm thinking, oh, yeah, I'm commenting to this post because it's something that I believe.
Yeah.
You know, you don't have to fit in. It goes right back to our message. You know, you don't have to fit in. You don't have to, you know, oh, this is the latest trend, I'm going to write about it. It may be popular, it may sell, but for someone like me, that, you know, this lesson is going to follow me to the grave. I'm going to, so, you know, I couldn't help but comment on your post, because as self-publishers and having that door that you're opening for yourself, why not write about what you really are passionate about?
Yeah. And that was kind of why, you know, I think about it, and over the last 5 years, my why has kind of changed, but I think it's always been rooted in impact, wanting to make an impact with the stories that I'm telling, and wanting to make an impact with the stories that I'm publishing that other people have written, and really just feeling like, man, if we can turn the volume up on these stories, we can reach more readers, we can make a greater impact with our stories, and they don't have to be popular. But if you're serious about the message that's in your book, then why not work hard or put in the effort to turn up the volume on those stories? And so that was something that I felt like, okay, I felt like I was challenged with that. Like, okay, while popularity might not be big for me, I do want to reach readers, and I want them to enjoy the stories that I've published and am publishing and am writing, because of the messages that are in them. And, you know, it was so funny. The other day I was listening to an author, popular author, can't think of his name at the moment, it slips me, but he was talking about, you know, telling stories. And one of the things that he was saying is, you know, books are kind of a representation of the times. And if there aren't books by people that look like you, then it's almost like you were never there to begin with. Like, and even the other day I seen a statistic again. It has not changed. The book publishing industry has not changed. I think they said it was like 90% white Americans
Oh, wow.
run the book publishing industry, and then it was like Hispanic, Asian, um, Black, and then like whatever, like others was like the last category, and it was like 3% Black, or like in 2019 I think it was like 4% African American. And I was like, what? Okay. And so that even lit more fire under my butt. Like, okay, I really got to step this up, because
Exactly.
who's telling my story? Who's telling the story of the culture that I come from, or whatever? And so to me, that was really concerning. And so what are your thoughts about that?
It is concerning. I think that, as you've said, that when you're passionate about something, passionate about a story, I think you just need to dig in. My
Yeah.
son and I talk about every day how if it's not something that's popular, not something that's trending, people don't get it. And
Yeah.
it frustrates me. You can ask my son. I'll wake up in the morning. Okay, I'm gonna be calm. Okay, I'm gonna keep. And you'll put your you'll market your story. You'll have, okay, like you and I talked about the camp materials. People don't get it because to me, they're locked in what's popular. Oh, this isn't popular.
Yeah.
Oh, this isn't vibrant. Oh, this looks like it costs $25. I don't care if it's free. It's the
Yeah.
message. We miss out on so much inspiration. We miss out on the people that we can reach, because I just wish that people were a little more open-minded. It's not a thing of, oh, I'm better than they are, or you're better than me. It's not about that. It's just, let me be open to this.
Yeah.
We have a simple coloring page that says February. I've called and talked to library, and this isn't to promote it. This is really an example. I called here to local libraries in the city that I live, and I told them that this word came to me maybe, I don't know, maybe 6, 7, 8, 9 years ago, February. During the month of Black History, kids are studying great leaders in school from the past, philanthropists, their favorite actor, author. But I still want children to celebrate themselves during this month. We're adults, so we get it.
Yeah.
We know how, oh, I'm proud of myself. Oh, I'm successful. But with everything that kids go through in school, period, they could be pushing their self-respect and their self-esteem to the back, thinking, I'm focusing on everybody else. Would you believe that we have not sold a single coloring page that with a message that says February? Because I think people are locked into what's popular. Oh, I don't get this. Oh, this coloring page doesn't look like it was drawn by somebody that this should be 500. It's the message. We need to take things back to the message.
Yeah. Wow. And so tell us more about this book that you're talking about. I know what you're talking about, but for those that are just listening and tuning in, or maybe catching this on the replay, what's this book that you're sharing?
Well, you and I talked about a book of poetry. It's a poem book. I do have a book where, of course, it's a book of poetry and we have individual poems in it. But this one book, again, me, wanting to put out into the world messages that touch me, messages that, again, that I live, believe, stand by. The book's called Always Ask. It's a small book, and I describe it as a small book with a big impact. It's for children. I told you about the statistic when you and I were, or the percentage when you and I were talking, almost 80% of children feel uncomfortable asking questions. I was one of those children. When I was in school, I wouldn't ask questions. I didn't want to bring any attention to myself anyway. So I shared this story with my son. When I was in school, if I didn't understand something, and this is true, I would wait until all my classmates were out of the room to go up and ask my teacher the question, or I try to beat them into the classroom to ask the teacher the questions, to ask a teacher questions. With the percentage of almost 80% of kids, that lets you know that's a need. It may not be getting a lot of attention because it goes back to, oh, this isn't popular, this isn't trending. Meanwhile, kids are hurting in school, and that's a scary feeling. You're sitting in class surrounded by kids, you don't understand something, and a peer or a classmate's going to giggle because you asked the question. So Always Ask is a lighthearted poem And it tells children how it helps children better handle themselves when they should get laughed at if they ask a question. You know, it
Mm-hmm.
lets them know you're going to need to ask questions for days, weeks, months, years to come. If, you know, somebody
Yeah.
should laugh, don't feel sad about that because you're learning. So,
Mm-hmm.
you know, it's called Always Ask. And, you know, from that, we turned it into a camp, which you and I talked about, that
Mm-hmm.
children can do at home. It's a fun, self-paced camp. You actually get a copy of the poem, Always Ask, because it's in book form. It's also in the form of poetry also. And I mean, my son and I just think, not because we created it, but it is so much fun for children
Mm-hmm.
8+. You get an explorer card. So the kid, you know, they turn their home into a camp. This is something that
Mm-hmm.
you can do at home. They fill out what's called an explorer card. They get a copy of the complete poem at the beginning of the camp, and all the activities center around the message of just helping children unwind and feel comfortable when it comes to asking questions and really see the advantages of asking
Mm-hmm.
questions. It's more than, you know, go above the laugh. Okay, I'm learning. They're laughing
Yeah.
at me, but I'm learning. So, you know, it's a fun set of materials that kids can do from home. We have
Mm-hmm.
instructions where kids can actually record their own affirmation and play that back whenever they
Mm.
want to or whenever they need to. So,
Nice.
you know, this all came from just me, again, wanting to help kids and show them the advantages and the benefits of asking questions.
Yeah, and so Gia and I are going to give it a shot this weekend. I told Robin that that was something that I wanted to try. And, you know, because I've always thought as a child, and, you know, my parents and those that raised me did their best, but I always felt like maybe I could have benefited more from role playing, right? Because there was just some things you just don't know how to say. Even as an adult,
Right.
I'm searching for words. I don't
For
know how to
sure.
say something.
For
I
sure.
mean, that's why I'm a writer, because sometimes I can get my message out better in
Exactly.
writing versus speaking. And so
Exactly.
now, as a mom of a little girl, I'm like, man, let's role play some things. Let's, you know, and this is real life. This is, you know what I mean? We have to train our kids up and raise our kids up to be, you know, self-efficient, you know,
We
taking
do.
care of their self-adults and stuff. And so that was one of the things I thought. I said, okay, I'm going to get this for Gia, give it a shot. And, you know, again, as parents, you know, we're responsible for helping our children build their self-esteem
Exactly.
and letting them know, hey, you are solid on your own.
Exactly.
Again, like we've been saying this whole episode, you know, you don't have to follow the trends. You can be unique, and they can stand on that, and they can have the words to say. And so I really like this, and I highly recommend all parents go and check out what she's talking about, and get involved with your children. Are you an educator by chance, or what is it that you're doing now?
No, I'm not an
Okay.
educator, just, you know, always had an interest in children, like I said, and
Mm-hmm.
just, you know, encouraging them to remember to make their own choices. And it's interesting that you talked about role playing because you'll see in the set of camp materials that my son and I created a mock interview. And that's basically the role
Mm-hmm.
playing in a sense that you're talking about because we instruct a child to ask a parent, a friend, a sibling,
Mm-hmm.
or whoever they want to conduct an interview because again it's like okay, you know, if I want to be a journalist, if I want to grow up to be a reporter, I'm going to have to ask questions. Or
Mm-hmm.
again, even in school, like any environment, any situation that you're in, you're going to have to ask questions. So it's so interesting that you mentioned role playing because we have a
Mm-hmm.
mock interview in there as well. So but no, I'm not an educator. I want to, you know, really focus on One Body Publishing Company. I was doing a different job before the pandemic hit, and I lost
Mm-hmm.
that job, which really was a blessing for me, or that business, which really
Mm-hmm.
was a blessing for me because then my son and I are getting into our own publishing company.
Nice.
We were awarded 2 contracts with the school district, and so we're just trying to really get
Nice.
our name and our message out there. But you know, it's like you and I have been mentioning, you have to just knock on that door harder if it's
Yeah.
not something that's popular or trending.
Mm-hmm.
So this is what, you know, we're wanting to do is just really dig our heels into One Body Publishing Company. We have a coloring book, excuse me. We have a coloring book that we are going to revamp and put out. We have another book that we're working on. So,
Nice.
behind the scenes, we're working.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's wonderful. That's wonderful. We need to see it. More Black publishers, more Black publishing
For
companies
sure.
out there.
For sure.
We already know that there's a bunch of others, but I love that, and I think that it's just needed. It's absolutely just needed. And something else that we were talking about is just again, going back to the whole trending thing. And the other day, Gia and we were at the library, and she was like, she wanted to get a book that talked about Black history. And we kind of looked around like, where are they putting them? Like, it's Black History Month, but we hardly see. I don't know what
Exactly.
it is this year. I feel like the advertisements, maybe I'm not watching as much TV, but even in the library, it was kind of hard to find like Black history books that normally I thought like, okay, this is the month. Normally you would think that they would have them like in plain view. That was not the case. And I was like, wow. But ended up going to a shelf where they had like new reads, and there were some on there, but it wasn't what I had expected. And I thought, wow, okay, is this, not to even go like be political, but I know that there's a position out there that does not want to talk about Black history. And, like we started off saying earlier, just as far as if, there's no representation in the books of your culture, then it almost looks like your culture did not exist. And so, what are your thoughts about that?
You know, I agree with you. It's really interesting that you said that because this is the honest truth. I was looking at TV earlier and, I'm thinking, I don't know if it's just me, but I don't see as much. Like there used to be a little bit more of local events, just a little bit, like
Mm-hmm.
you said, more focus and attention on it. And when you mention the library, it goes back to the coloring sheet that we have. We explain to the librarians that this is something that you purchase because we're not a nonprofit. So we're asking
Mm-hmm.
for, we sell it because we put the money back into our business and,
Mm-hmm.
there's no interest in it. And when you said that, I don't know if it's just as a whole this year or
Mm-hmm.
what has changed to kind of cool or, what feels like this Black History Month this year has like cooled off instead of it continuing. I don't know, maybe if it's just maybe the pandemic, maybe coming out of it, maybe just, I don't know. My son and I try to, look at things reasonably. Sometimes, when we're calling the libraries, it's not one of those things where, oh, children would love this. Oh, you are doing something good to help kids, keep in mind their greatness and,
Mm-hmm.
what's, good to celebrate about themselves. It's like, it's the driest call on the planet. And I'm like, what? It's, it is the driest call on the planet.
Yeah.
And that it makes me it does make me sad because my son and I years ago we had our own live local radio show, and during the month of
Mm.
February we focused on African Americans or Black individuals that were the first to do something in their career. So, I mean, we kept it going. We had guests like Donnie Little. He was the first Black quarterback to play for UT. We
Wow.
interviewed Rodney Allen Rippey. He was the first child, African American child, excuse me,
Mm.
to do a commercial for Jack in the Box. So, we're trying to
Wow.
keep these things going for
Mm-hmm.
our kids. Like my son, I don't know how old my son was. He was young, and here he was asking a question to someone like Rodney Allen Rippey, to someone like Donnie Little. So I
Mm-hmm.
just, even as a publishing company, even as publishers, you and I, just
Mm-hmm.
continue to publish our work, continuing to bring attention to what we do, to even
Mm-hmm.
let children see the greatness in their home, the greatness from
Yeah.
you and I. Because
Mm-hmm.
sometimes, our children can overlook that. You
Yeah.
know, unless we really break it down and they see, oh, my mom has this publishing company. Oh, I'm going
Mm-hmm.
into the store, I'm seeing my mom's name on a book, or I'm seeing my mom's,
Yeah.
work at the bookstore. So I think it's just time to just keep at it and go at it harder.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's encouraging for me because and about you saying that, I was thinking about a couple months ago. I was living in Texas. I'm now in Florida. I was living in Texas, and I had worked with an author, and we did a children's book. And my daughter had went into this new school where the author who I published, she was working there. And she seen the book that I had published, and my daughter was like, "Oh my God, that's my mom published that book," and it was in her school's classroom. And that made me so proud. That made her so proud. That made the authors so proud that we had done this together. But I thought, wow, like, okay, but the thing with books, and this is something that I've been telling the authors that I work with, is like, if you don't keep pushing it, it goes kind of
Exactly.
silent. You might have sales doing really well when you first drop that thing, but after a while, they kind of die off. And so it's like, it's with any company, you gotta consistently market. You gotta consistently talk about it. And I think I was doing an interview. I don't know if she's still here, Miss Jodea. I was talking to her one interview, and we were talking about how years ago, years ago, when Michael Jordan first dropped his shoes, nobody liked them. They were ugly. He could not sell his shoe. But whatever, maybe years after that, after his shoe was released, then it started getting popular. It started gaining popularity, and then things really took off. And that's a $200 shoe,
Exactly.
$200 plus now today. And so sometimes it's just a matter of time. And that's something that I try to tell the people that I work with is, hey, it might just be a matter of time. For a lot of even popular authors, they have published 20 to 30 books before their name really gets out there. And so I feel like, to me, publishing books and selling books and all of that is a long-term game. You can't
It is.
just put one book out there and get those first couple months sales, or that first year of sales is doing good, and expect it to continue to be on an upward movement. Sometimes it doesn't happen that way.
That's true. It is a long-term game, and it goes back to what I mentioned in the beginning of the interview about the topics that I love and that I'm passionate about, and working with children. Because if you're in it, like, it goes back also to the theme
Mm-hmm.
that we're talking about. If you're in it, oh, I'm going to write this popular book, and then
Yeah.
I'm going to become a millionaire, or this is the trend now. It's like you have to be in it for the long haul,
Yeah.
and I think writing, period, and writers, I guess it would be the same for any industry, but because of when you're in the
Mm-hmm.
industry, you think maybe a little bit differently. But I think that you know for writers, you really have to be in it for the long haul. Because
Mm-hmm.
even on Facebook, I read a comment where someone was told, "Oh, you can't make it as a poet. Oh, your name has to already be built if you want to make
Mm-hmm.
it as a poet. If you want to, publish poetry." And it goes back to what you said. It's how hard you work it, how
Yeah.
diligent you are, how committed you are. And my son ends up being my inspiration. I'm pretty, self-motivated, and I'll stick with something. He'll tell you, I'll call until I get an answer. If the answer doesn't make sense, or I don't
Mm-hmm.
understand it, I'll stay on something. But because I'm so passionate about writing, sometimes I
Mm-hmm.
find myself or a lot of times I find myself getting a little bit frustrated, because you feel like
Yeah.
you should be at a different place than where you are.
Mm-hmm.
And so, my son and I, we tell ourselves, look, this is, again, this is something that's needed. This is something that will
Mm-hmm.
help children. We're not doing this for the money. We just got to get it in front of our audience that understands it.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so this is what I like about you and I being able to communicate, because sometimes, unfortunately, you find that thing of, this person's in my same industry, or I'm not going to talk to them. Oh, they're
Yeah.
going to steal my ideas. Oh, I'm going to put this little publishing company down. Because it's really not
Right.
about that. If
Right.
we, you and I, are able to, realize that,
Mm-hmm.
popularity and trends can really hurt you, and coming together the way we've done, you're supporting me, is something
Mm-hmm.
that's literally rare.
Mm. Yeah, yeah. I didn't think about that, but it's true. It's so true. And that reminds me I'm always on social media just looking and seeing what people are kind of doing.
Exactly.
I'm a little nosy, so I just like to be seeing what people are doing. And so
Right.
anyways, this one young lady, she was on TikTok and she was sharing how she felt like other creators were not supporting her. Granted, she had 33,000 followers or something like that, and she just felt like other creators were not supporting her. And they had mentioned something about like crabs in a bucket. And I had just was being friendly and put a comment. I said, yeah, but crabs in a bucket. I said, but crabs don't belong in a bucket. And sometimes it can be our environment. And just because you're an African American or you're a woman does not mean that you're going to connect with other women. You would hope so. You would
You
love
would.
to collaborate with other women. You
You
would
would.
hope to collaborate other people in your culture, but that's not always going to be the case, right? And so I think that when you do find people that you can collaborate with and you guys can get on the same page with something, hold on to those people, because we're
Exactly.
not entitled to somebody's time or money or support just because they look like us. No, that's silly. But when you do find someone who looks like you, who you know whatever, and you're in the same field, hold on to that and work with it. And so absolutely, I was so glad that you had commented. I think you were like the only person that had commented on that post on Facebook about making an impact with our stories. I don't care about, I mean, I this is a beautiful connection and a beautiful thing that we have going on. So I'm grateful, and
Exactly.
I want to invite others who, whether, you're just someone that's working in the book publishing industry as an editor or an author or graphic designer or whatever, or even another publishing company, to connect and let's figure some stuff out and figure out how we can support each other. Because, you know, right now I'm a solopreneur. So I run my company by myself. I'm doing everything. I just told an author today, I said, hey, look, I'm going to get some help with this particular book. We want it to be pristine. And though I'm really talented, and for the last 5 years, I've been able to hold down every position at my company, I was tired. I am
Yeah.
tired. I am getting
Right.
tired. So I'm like, okay, let me get some help. Let me see who else can help with this thing. And so she's on board, and we're like, okay, even if it takes some time, we are going to get some help with this. But you just got to keep going. You just got to keep working. And, it could be years. It could be years. But what I was trying to get to is this thing that I'm listening to, this book by John Maxwell called Leadership. And in it, he talks about, as a leader, are you in it for just the perks, or are you in it to pay the price and the perks that come with paying the price? If you're just going to be playing games at first, at some point you're going to pay the price. What his point was is that there is a price to pay, and sometimes you're going to be paying that price for a long time. Sometimes you're just going to be doing the boring, the mundane work until the switch flips and things change. But in the meantime, if you got to pay the price, and sometimes that price is paid with just our time. So
That's true.
yeah, a lot of authors, I think, they get into this thinking, oh, I'm going to replace my day job with my book. I'm just going to do this, and I'm going to be a well-known author. I'm going to be a New York Times bestseller. But they don't realize the price that has to be paid before they can get to that perk. And a lot of times that price is just the time. It just takes time.
It does take time. And, going back to when I mentioned that earlier, that's something that my son and I talk about, because my son will tell you, I'm one of the people, I'll sit back and I'll look for patterns, and, then I'll refine what I'm doing. Or,
Mm.
I'll be in my office or my room that I call my office, and,
Yeah.
I'll reflect. I have a chair that's by the window. And, I'll literally, just take time to reflect, okay, what's working today?
Mm.
Okay, I read this article, how is this article going to help me? And, a lot of wisdom and a lot of thoughts will just come to me during those times. And
Mm-hmm.
again, it goes back to me not being afraid to say, I don't care for things that are popular only. I don't care for things that are trending
Mm-hmm.
only. And, sticking to that, it really helps you with your mindset. It's like you have to kind of figure out,
Mm-hmm.
what are my non-negotiables? Like I had to get over the fact that this isn't being mean, this isn't being rude. That sometimes you have to look beyond your family. You would think, oh my, this is going to
Yeah,
buy this
come
or that.
on.
When my mom and grandma passed away, that took
Mm-hmm.
the sales that they would have lovingly and willingly wanted to give me. So, you
Mm-hmm.
do go through the anger. Oh, I know they'll buy that. Oh, I know they'll buy that.
Yeah.
You really have to get over that, because that can hold you back. And that's something
Mm-hmm.
that I had to work with. And I told my son, okay, I'm going to go this way now, because if
Mm-hmm.
you're not getting it willingly and you've asked throughout multiple products, it's like, okay, then I can't let that door stop me. So,
Mm-hmm.
doing my reflection, I'm thinking, okay, it's all about getting in front of your market.
Yeah.
I was reading in your audience, I was reading, mentioning books. I used to read, and I have gotten away from it, but it's a book called Building a Story Brand by Donald Miller. And he
Mm.
talks about getting in front of your audience and throwing your work, because then they're going to want it. They're looking for this. And so, sometimes that
Mm-hmm.
can hold you back when you keep going to the same audience, thinking, okay, maybe it's going to be
Mm.
this book, it's going to be this topic, it's going to be
Yeah.
this time of year, it's going to be, all these different factors. And if it's not your audience, it's not your audience. And I talk about that on Facebook a lot. And,
Mm.
sometimes it's like you mentioned about the comments, you'll read a comment, oh, they went on a rant, or oh, they're being bitter. And I'm thinking, people will label the truth as being
Yeah.
bitter. If I'm knocking on your door and
Mm.
you're not going to buy anything from me, then what? I'm just going to keep knocking on your door instead of saying, okay, she's not my audience, or
Yeah.
okay, she is my audience. I'm going to show her my work. So,
Mm-hmm.
the part of us being successful and growing the publishing company is really knowing who your audience is, and
Yeah.
not letting who is not your audience stop you. And that for years, that would,
Mm.
okay, brand new book, okay, the camp, I'm going to go to family. And I did, I
Yeah.
did. But now when I go to it, I'm like, I'm just asking to ask. I'm not going to,
Yeah.
allow it to hold me back. I'm not going to say, oh, publishing isn't for me. So really
Mm-hmm.
knowing who your audience is and getting your work in front of your audience, excuse me, that wants it. I mean, that's key. I always tell my
Yeah.
son, and I always write on Facebook, there's over 8 billion people on this planet.
Yeah.
Our audience is out here. There's 8
Out there.
billion people. Our audience is out here. So, it's like you said, just digging your heels
Mm-hmm.
in and just continuing to just get in front of your audience. And, if you have the right mindset on that, that can either stop
Mm-hmm.
you or that can help you go forward. Like, okay, 8 billion people, not 8, not 80, 8 billion
Yeah.
people.
Yeah, that's hey, you can make something happen. That's for sure. With 8 billion people, that's for sure. Um, man, there's so many things that you said that were so good. What did I want to say that you were saying? Reaching your audience, and that's the thing. I think some people aren't sure who their audience is. And it's like, okay, well, I think you I think that's why you just start trying stuff, right? You do
Exactly.
something, you evaluate, you see, okay, what worked, what didn't work. I did this, I tried to do this. Okay, did I do a lot of that thing, or was I consistent with it? Did I, what was it that I was doing? And then relying on your family, that's a whole nother thing. I think that is one of the things when I'm in these like different author Facebook groups, that's always something that comes up, is like, man, my family is not buying my book, I'm upset, what should I do? And people get in there and it's like a hot topic. Like, first of all, your target audience is probably not going to be your family, especially, maybe you're writing a romance book, maybe you're writing a thriller. Your family might not even like to read,
Right.
and they say that African Americans is the, least likely group of people to read books, which I think that also can play a huge part in why we see the numbers so skewed in book publishing. I want to say that's a factor. I think racism is a huge factor, but I also think that another factor could be that reading isn't such a big thing in our culture, and there could be some other things in there too. There could be some financial reasons why. There can be all sorts of other things there, as far as how come when it comes to book publishing and book reading, how come Blacks and African Americans are on the low end of that. But I think that when we see more Black authors, more Black publishing companies, and we see more of that, my belief, and I could be, somebody might be thinking, girl, you're naive, but I think when we see more of it, maybe that will change, and maybe that will shift our culture, and we can make a difference, right? Back to making an impact. And it might not be trendy right now, but neither was the civil rights. The civil rights wasn't trendy for a while, but it took some people to get together and say, hey, this is what we're going to do. We're going to work together. We're going to create a movement, and we're not going to stop until we see change. And I think that maybe we're at that point again where we need to see a change with some of these things.
I agree with you for sure. And, one other thing, as much as I love marketing, because I know marketing plays a part in your business, but my son and I, we also talk about how sometimes maybe you possibly need, everyone possibly needs to consider or think about loosening the reins when it comes to marketing. Marketing can help you, but marketing can hurt you. And I don't, like I said, I'm not trying to offend anybody. I'm not trying to come on here, why isn't she a millionaire? She knows all this. These are things that I'm figuring out. And it just, to me, it just goes back to common sense. If you walk in our apartment, if you look at books that I have, if you look at music that I have, I don't have a million problems. I bought the product because I like it. But that's what I mean about going back to marketing. Oh, I would like this camp, but it doesn't solve this problem. Or I would like this book. Buy something because you like it. Buy something because it's entertaining. And that can hold people back as well. Well, I want to become an author, but all I want to do is inspire. There's not a market for that. If you loosen our mindset on marketing, there's a market for it. Sometimes I just like to read books to be inspired. I like to read romance novels, not because, I'm single, this romance novel is going to solve my problem. Just loosen the reins a bit on marketing and bring entertainment back into it,
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes marketing and monetizing also just sometimes it really annoys me to my core, to be honest, because, it's like now it's almost like, I am 2 steps ahead of you. I'll sell you my product for, X amount. Sometimes we are hurting ourselves by, not being willing to, like I said, loosen the reins on marketing. I'm going to support you because you have this book that I like. My nail is broken, but you don't have a book on my nail, but I like your book anyway. I'm going to buy it. There's no set marketing rule. You're going to get in trouble if you don't buy the things that solve your problem. Only buy things that inspire you, buy things that uplift you, whether it's a book, whether it's, painting. So, those are some of the things that I always reflect on. And, again, I'm not saying I'm 100% right, but when us selling our work, I've posted about the camp on Facebook, on our business page, on our personal page. The sales that we're not getting could be because, it doesn't solve a problem. If it sounds fun for your child, if you know that your child is asking questions, if you know that, just try things, even though it doesn't always solve a problem. So sometimes those tight reins that we think about, that can set you back in any industry.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's so true. That is so true. Because how did things even get to be that way, though? How did we? Because I absolutely hear that a lot on social media and just in like business groups is, to solve people's problems. But I would also say entertainment could be solving someone's problem
Yeah,
as far as them being
exactly.
bored. If you're bored,
Exactly.
check this
That's
out.
exactly.
Yeah, yeah. And so I think then it's just trying to get that message across, and that's the thing. That's why I say, authors, if you have a message in your book, focus on that message. What is the message of your story? And maybe talk about the message, focus on the message and amplifying the message that's within the story and talking about that more, and figuring out how many stories can you tell about the story that you wrote, how many stories can you tell about the overall message, um, and taking it from that angle. Something that I've been telling the authors that I work with is, marketing really, I would think, again, I could just be naive, and this is something that I'm working through myself. I would think that authors would be great at marketing because our strength is in creativity. How did you create a whole book? You took the time. You obviously have an imagination. You obviously know something about something. Your strength is in creativity. You're actually solving a problem really with your book. It's either entertaining or it's educational or it's both. um if we can take our strength of creativity and our imagination and apply that to this other area of marketing and looking at marketing as storytelling, because when I'm in like these different entrepreneurial groups, they always tell us your brand is your story. Your brand is your story. And so I'm thinking, well, dang, I wish more authors knew that. I wish more authors knew that their brand is their story. Their message in their book can be their brand story. And maybe if we shift our focus or just change our perspective, change how we're looking at this thing, then we could do a little bit better than we're doing. And so that's just my theory. I haven't, I'm still slowly growing my social media. I'm still slowly growing my brand awareness, but I don't know. I think I'm onto something there. What do you think?
I definitely think you are. I mean, for sure, I think you are. There's a place for
Mm-hmm.
creativity in marketing.
Mm-hmm.
And, sometimes I think that's a factor that just gets overlooked,
Yeah.
and again, that could come from just the side or the type of marketing information or the type of maybe marketing model that you're following.
Yeah.
Things happen so fast. Things in the world happen so fast. Things online happen so fast. And I think that creativity, it just gets swept under the rug. Like,
Yeah.
you have to have all your
Mm.
I's dotted, all your T's crossed. And again, loosen your marketing mindset. Oh, this is so
Yeah.
creative. There's
Mm-hmm.
beauty in things that are simple. But, it gets looked at as like, oh, this looks like it costs $25. This costs 2,500. I'm going to go for this. It's that mindset. Slow it
Yeah.
down. There's
Yeah.
beauty in things that are creative, and I think that that's been that we've gotten away from that. Even with my very first book, I shared this story with my son. Also, my very first book, my grandmother and my mom would come home from her job. My mom was a maid. She'd come home
Mm-hmm.
from her job, and she'd have 2 or 3 sheets of paper of friends and employers that bought the book. No marketing, no, well, this is the problem that my
Wow.
mom was trying to solve with this book. Now it's the word of mouth is gone, or
Yeah.
I'm going to buy this book because I like it.
Mm-hmm.
And, if that's the way, like, again, the trend is going, then, go against that. Just don't, okay, I'm going to stand here until this message, like you said, is heard, until
Yeah.
we have other people's messages, become heard, until, we remember creativity, and that's
Mm-hmm.
why I tend to like people who stand out and who don't fit in.
Mm-hmm.
It's people forget that you forget about the simple things like creativity. And so you have
Mm-hmm.
to be strong-minded. You got to have a
Yeah.
strong will, because otherwise you'll just end up quitting, or you'll just fit in. So,
Yeah.
I have to be careful with that myself, because there's a platform that I write and publish my articles on.
Mm-hmm.
And on there again is a big wave of don't do this, or this is not what's in, this is not what's popular.
Yeah.
Write using AI. I want to write using me I hand, my hand. I want to write using my hand.
Yeah.
And some people may get offended by it, but again, you have to stand your ground and you're
Mm-hmm.
going to be an example for somebody to not fit in. There's already enough people fitting in.
Yeah.
AI, doing the writing for you. That's not something
Mm-hmm.
that I want to do. I literally want to write from myself, really, really want to write from my own
Yeah.
thoughts. So, sometimes these simple things, again, it goes back to just being yourself,
Mm-hmm.
not being afraid to say, while all these trends spin around me, I'm going to stick to what I'm passionate about
Yeah.
and what I believe in, and
Yeah.
sometimes, on different platforms, I think that you may be less popular because people don't get it or they don't take time to get it or they kind of label you as a know-it-all. When meanwhile, if you peel all that away, here's somebody that just doesn't want to fit in. However you
Mm.
may label it, oh, know-it-all, oh, rude, oh, that here's somebody that just doesn't want to fit in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. And to me, that's authentic. That's someone who's really authentic. And especially with like AI technology and those things coming out, and we're seeing it in art, we're seeing it everywhere in business. I think that there will be a time, whenever it is, people are really gonna be looking for that authenticness,
That's
in
true.
people. I think what happened even during the pandemic is when we were able to be in community and connecting with each other as much. I know I was not, I wasn't listening to the rules, but I know a lot of people were just like depressed in their homes by themselves and they missed that human connection and that human touch. Now, things are a little bit more open, people are back traveling, things are a lot more different, but I think even with the oncoming of like AI, it being more popular, because something I heard a couple of days ago was that this technology has been here, but it was only available on a corporate level. Now they're making it available to consumers. And so I thought, oh, that's interesting, because someone was saying there was a debate going on in a author group on Facebook about like, should we use AI to do book covers or illustrations and things like that? And I'm like, yeah, if you want to, it's an option. I don't think that there's you should do it like this or don't do it like this. Get it how you want to. If you want to use AI for your book, do it. Do it. And also, yeah, there might be some legal things you need to check out. We'll do that. There's always legal things that you need to check out when it comes to this, anyways, that you might just want to be aware of. And so, absolutely. But I think that my point is just like, be yourself, be
Exactly.
authentic, and
Exactly.
you will find your tribe. People will either like you or they won't like you. But
Exactly.
however, it doesn't matter. You will ultimately, at some point, you will ultimately meet the people who are like, you know what, I like this person, or you will learn something along the way that will help you say, oh, you know what, I could do this a little different, I can do it like this. And that one change might be what makes you go viral or whatever, and you increase your brand awareness and you increase your book sales and things just go up from there. And that made me think of another thought is, someone said, um and it's also the same thing with like musicians, like, oh, this person sold millions of books after they died, so they never even seen that money. And so to me, I thought, oh, that's kind of interesting, like, to think about. But as far as like, your book is gonna live on regardless. Maybe you might not even see. I don't want to say that. To me, that it's a little morbid, but it's
Right.
it's a reality for some people. It's a reality that their books didn't become popular until they passed away. And so I don't know, I'm just talking now at this point, I think.
You know, I mean, you've made a lot of good points. It goes back to, just like you said, just be yourself, do what you
Yeah.
want to do. And, another conversation that my son will tell you, that I have all the time is, it goes back to when you mentioned AI, as opposed to like writing your own content, writing your own
Mm-hmm.
thoughts. Even with me saying I don't, prefer AI, I
Mm-hmm.
love to write myself. That everything that you hear me say is all. is rooted in me anyway. So it's not like, I'm just kind of saying, things, or, I just want to be the person that's against everything. My son will tell you that I have such a love for the human body itself and what it can do. Now, that makes sense, and that goes back to my point of me loving to
Yeah.
write. If like I love piano solos. Prince is my absolute favorite artist, and
Okay.
anything that people do with their hands, I'll look at ice skaters and I'll tell my son, how in the world do they do that with their body? I'll look at swimmers. So that just backs up, honestly, which I mentioned earlier, not just trying to go against something, or degrade someone that chooses AI. If you have a love for the human body,
Yeah.
even, when you relate to scriptures, the power that we have, life and death is in the power of the tongue.
Yeah,
It
come on.
all, why am I just, you can't pay me to use AI, because I love what we were born to do, what we have the power to do. You cannot pay me. You can't pay
Yeah.
me. Whether
Yeah.
I have a penny or all the penny, you cannot pay me,
Yeah.
because just think about what we can do. Just think about the thoughts that come to us. And there's articles that I've read, and you can tell the difference, because it's like, okay, where's the human touch? And
Yeah.
again, I'm not putting that down. It's like we could do more than what we
Yeah.
just pass over. We're trying to establish ourselves anyway, and then here comes AI taking some of our talent. No,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
no. I mean, for me, that's
Mm-hmm.
only for me. And again, because of my love for the human body. Now, if even the scriptures and our makeup was, okay, this is what we can't do, this is what we can't do, then okay, but we can do all things, then I can write all my stuff.
Yeah.
It may, it may, take a while to find an audience like we're talking about. But, this is like sincerity for me. It's not, like I said, it's not one of these things, who does this lady think she is, or anything like that. I love what we're capable to do through the human body. And again, just watch ice skaters. Like, they're doing these things with their bodies. It's not like, they have a remote, they're training their bodies to do things. So
Yeah.
we can train that pen to do what we want that pen to do. Just connect
Yeah.
our thoughts with that pen. So, so that way also our children can see, like you said, the children, the young adults,
Yeah.
they can see, oh, okay, I want to be an artist. I can, draw this sketch. Okay, this person's going to laugh at it. Oh, you should use this tool, or, oh, you should use this enhancement. Again, they may be influenced away from what their body can do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. 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 Well, hey, this was a great
It
conversation. Oh my gosh, we have
was.
been on for about an hour. I feel like we
Oh,
can talk and talk and talk. And
don't get
so,
me talking. That's what will happen.
hey, Robin, thank you so much for
Thank
joining me
you.
tonight. Tell us where
Thank
we can,
you.
you're welcome. Where can we get your book? How can we support you? Let us know.
The camp that we're really hoping that everyone will get. I actually wrote it down. This is something that my son always rattles off for me. I'm into the writing, but for the camp, you can go to Gumroad. You can go to our Gumroad store, which is onebodypublishing.gumroad.com.
Okay.
You can also we have some individual poetry on Teachers Pay Teachers. You can go to the teacherspayteachers.com and search One Body, ONE spelled out, One Body Publishing Company. And also, there's still a few days left. Excuse me. There's still a few days left for children 8+ to get the coloring page there on Teachers Pay Teachers, the Feb Me area. It's a really unique design that my son
Nice.
drew. Feb Me area. I don't know if you can see the
Mm-hmm.
T-shirt, but the coloring page is
Okay.
this is an older design, but we have a newer design, and the word "me" is elevated in the newer design, because that's the
Oh.
message of Feb Me area. Like, I'm going
Mm-hmm.
to celebrate my greatness. So those are the places that you can check out the camp, and also the coloring page.
Okay, definitely. And you guys, stay tuned. I am going to snag everything she's talking about, and I'm going to do it with Gia and record it and show you. And And hopefully this will serve somebody. I hope somebody got something and was able to take away from this conversation. Hey, I have had a great time talking, and I will be back again sometime soon with another episode of Book Talk. Until then, have a good night. Bye.
Okay. Bye. Thank you.